stop right here. Because if you keep scrolling, you may never know the real reason why life keeps slipping through your fingers. Listen carefully. Every second you ignore this, you're choosing to stay trapped in the same cycle, wanting, chasing, hoping, and never having. What I'm about to reveal is not just information. It's a shift, a doorway, and only those who step through it will ever taste the life they've been begging for. So I'll ask you, are you ready to put down your distractions? Are you ready to give yourself to this moment, fully, completely? Because if you don't, you risk walking away blind to the very mechanism that has been controlling your reality all along. Now think back, a time when you wanted something so badly, it consumed you. A relationship, a job, an opportunity. You obsessed, you prayed, you pushed, but the harder you tried, the further it ran. And then, remember this, a time when something incredible just appeared. Effortlessly, almost like magic. You barely thought about it, you didn't cling, you didn't chase, and it came. Why does this happen? Why does the desperate grasp always fail while indifference seems to open doors? The truth is ruthless. Reality isn't happening to you. It's responding to you. And every moment you chase, you broadcast lack. Every moment you obsess, you tell the universe, I don't have it. And reality obeys. But the instant you let go, the instant you stop needing, the instant you shift into the version of you who already has it, everything begins to bend. Everything begins to move. And this is the law. Miss this truth, and you'll keep running in circles forever. Step into it now, and reality itself will bend in your favor. But let me make this painfully clear. If you walk away from this moment, if you let your mind drift back into distraction, you will return to the same endless chase, and the chase never ends. It drains you, it robs you, it keeps you on the edge of almost there, but never arriving. Harvard researchers discovered something shocking. When the mind is trapped in scarcity, when you're obsessed with what you don't have, your brain loses up to 40% of its ability to make clear decisions. Think about that. Nearly half your clarity, gone. Not because you aren't intelligent, not because you don't have potential, but because your obsession hijacks your very brain. And here's the proof written in lives. A businessman in New York, bright, ambitious, hungry for success. He thought chasing every opportunity, every investment, every deal would finally bring him freedom. But obsession became his downfall. He was haunted by the belief of never enough. And in the end, he lost everything. Not because he lacked skill, not because he lacked ambition, but because his state of mind broadcasted lack and reality mirrored it perfectly. Now pause and imagine yourself in his place. Running, sweating, grinding, giving everything, and losing everything. Can you feel the weight of that? Because if you keep living the same way, if you keep running the same cycle, that way could be yours. But it doesn't have to be. There is another way. A way that feels effortless. A way where life bends to you instead of you bending to it. A way where the opportunities you thought were out of reach come rushing to meet you. This is the moment, right now. Not tomorrow, not someday. Because every time you delay, every time you think later, the loop tightens around you. So I'm asking you directly, do you want to stay in the prison of chasing? Or do you want to step into the power that bends reality? If you want change, if you want to claim back your strength, then do it right now. Write it. Declare it. Comment these words, I want to change now. Say it. Type it. Claim it. Because the very act of claiming begins the shift. And then ask yourself, why is it that the more we desire, the more it slips away? Why is it that the desperate chase always ends in emptiness while surrender opens the floodgates? That is the question. And in the next moment, I'll take you straight into the answer. Because once you understand this hidden law, you'll never look at your life the same way again. Because when you chase, you are sending out the signal, I don't have it. Let that sink in for a moment. Every time you run after something, every time you beg, every time you check to see if it's here yet, you are announcing to reality itself, it's missing, it's not mine. And what does reality do? It mirrors you. It reflects lack. It keeps giving you more of the same. This is the shocking truth most people never see. It's not the universe denying you. It's you denying yourself through the state you broadcast. Think about it. How many times have you felt that desperation? How many nights did you lie awake, clinging to the thought of what you wanted, only to watch it slip further away? And yet the moment you stopped caring, the moment you let go, That's when it appeared. Not because you gave up, because you finally stopped telling reality, I don't have it. Neville Goddard, one of the greatest teachers of consciousness, revealed this secret decades ago. He said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not hope for it, not long for it. Assume it. Step into it as if it is already yours. Because assumption, when sustained, hardens into fact. Bob Proctor echoed this power. He built an entire legacy teaching millions that belief shapes results. Not effort alone, not endless hustle, but the vibration of certainty, the inner knowing that bends outer circumstances. And if you think this is just philosophy, listen closely. Science has already caught up. The placebo effect has been documented thousands of times. When a patient believes a pill is real medicine, the body responds as if it truly is. Cells obey the mind. Pain fades. Healing begins. All because of belief. Consciousness creates tangible results. Now imagine what happens when you apply that same mechanism, not just to your health, but to every desire in your life. What would your reality look like if you stopped chasing and started assuming? This is not abstract. This is not theory. This is lived truth. In Florida, there was a veteran who came home carrying invisible scars. PTSD haunted his nights. He tried everything, therapy, medication, distraction, but nothing worked because deep inside, his state was fixed on danger, on fear, on I am broken. And so reality mirrored it. Until one day, he discovered this principle. He began to live, not as a wounded soldier, but as a man already safe. He assumed the feeling of I am whole, I am secure, I am at peace. At first, it felt unnatural, but day by day, he stopped checking, he stopped waiting, he stopped needing proof, and slowly something shifted. Nightmares faded, relationships healed, opportunities opened, and life began to flow again. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because he did. Now ask yourself, how different would your life be if you lived as though what you long for is already yours? How would you walk? How would you speak? How would you feel if you knew, not hoped, not begged, but knew it belonged to you? That is the challenge before you right now. Not tomorrow, not someday. This moment. Because every second you spend chasing, you're reinforcing lack. And every second you spend assuming, you're reinforcing abundance. So I'll challenge you directly. If you are ready to step into the version of yourself who already has it, then declare it right now. Type it, write it, speak it. Comment these words, I know I already have it. Because the act of claiming is not just symbolic, it's alignment. It's the first step into assumption. And assumption is power. So ask yourself, are you willing to keep running endlessly, always reaching but never touching? Or are you ready to embody the state of already having? The choice is yours. But understand this. Every moment you hesitate, you reinforce the prison you're in, and every moment you claim, you step closer to freedom. This is the law. The law that Neville whispered, that Bob Proctor shouted, that Science now confirms. Reality doesn't wait for you to prove yourself worthy. It waits for you to shift into certainty. So take this breath, take this moment, and decide. Because the question that now lingers is this: if assumption is the key, if living as though it is already done unlocks the door, then how exactly do you step into that state? That's where we go next. By living as if what you desire is already here in this very moment. Let those words sink in. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, this moment. Because this is not about pretending. This is not about daydreaming without action. This is about shifting the deepest root of your perception and letting your emotions flow from a place of already having. Think about it. When you know something is yours, do you chase it? Do you beg for it? Do you sit awake at night wondering if it will come? Of course not, because when something is already yours, there is no desperation, there is no waiting, there is only being. And here's the mystery most people never uncover. Your mind does not know the difference between imagination and reality. Neuroscience has proven this. When the brain vividly imagines an event, the same neurons fire as if the event were happening right now. Athletes use this, surgeons use this. High performers across every field rely on it, because the brain responds to assumption, not evidence. So let me ask you directly, what would happen if you began living, walking, speaking, breathing, as though your desire was already fulfilled? What if you woke up tomorrow morning and carried yourself not as someone waiting, but as someone living the dream? This isn't empty philosophy. It is rewiring your nervous system. It is shaping the way your energy moves, the way people respond to you, the way opportunities flow. Let me bring this to life with a story. In Boston, there was a runner, an athlete whose career came to a crashing halt with an injury. Doctors told him it would take months to recover, maybe longer. But he discovered something powerful. Instead of drowning in despair, he chose to live in the assumption of already being healed. Every day, he closed his eyes and felt the track under his feet. He felt the muscles firing, the rhythm of his stride, the victory of crossing the finish line. Not wishing, not hoping, living it. And what happened shocked everyone. His recovery was faster than expected. Doctors called it unusual. But he knew the truth, because in his mind, the race had already been won. His body simply caught up to the state he had chosen. Now ask yourself, what injury are you carrying? Maybe not in your body, but in your life. Is it a financial wound? A broken relationship? A dream that feels out of reach? What would happen if you stopped living as the one who waits and started living as the one who already has? Can you see how different you would feel walking through the world? How different your energy would be? People would notice it. Opportunities would respond to it. Reality itself would bend to it. Because here's the secret. The state of already having is magnetic. It does not push. It does not beg. It attracts. And the best part, you can choose this state in any moment. It is not locked behind effort. It is not hidden in some distant future. It is a choice right now. So let me challenge you directly, urgently. Do not wait another day. Do not keep replaying the story of someday. Step into the version of you who already has it. Live it, breathe it, claim it. And if you're ready to declare it, if you're ready to embody it, then write these words right now. I am living inside my dream. Not later, now. Because the very act of declaring begins to shift your state. It rewires your mind. It reprograms your emotions. It calls reality to obey the signal you're finally sending. So I'll leave you with this final question. If living in the state of already having is the key, then when you stop chasing, when you stop running, when you let go of the pursuit, does that mean you're giving up? Or could it mean you finally stepped into real power? That is the mystery we unlock next. No, when you already have it, why would you need to go searching for it? Think about that. Sit with it. Because this is the truth most people never dare to face. The endless chase, the restless waiting, the constant questions of when and how, they are not signs of strength. They are chains. And every time you ask, every time you reach, every time you beg, you are declaring to reality, I do not have it. But when you stop, when you end the obsession, when you drop the need to check, to prove, to demand, that silence itself becomes a declaration. It is a whisper that echoes into the universe. It is mine already. You see, stopping the chase is not quitting. It is the most powerful signal you can ever send. It is alignment. It is ownership. Because nothing you truly have requires you to obsess over it. If it's yours, it rests in your being. It flows around you. It radiates through you. And here's the fascinating part. Science confirms this. Behavioral research has shown that when the mind is released from obsession, when the grip loosens, the brain responds. Dopamine floods, creativity awakens, possibility expands. In other words, when you let go of chasing, you don't collapse, you rise. You unlock the part of your brain that creates, that attracts, that notices doors you were too blind to see before. So let me ask you directly, how much energy have you wasted running after something that was never meant to be chased? How many hours, days, even years have you spent living in the shadow of not yet? What would your life look like if you dared to stop right now? This is not weakness. This is not surrender. This is strength at its purest. The strength to trust. The strength to declare, I already am. I already have. And to prove this, let me tell you a story. A young artist in Los Angeles dreamed of recognition. For years, he ran after contracts, chased gallery owners, begged for opportunities. Each rejection cut deeper. Each unanswered call echoed louder, until one day something inside him broke. Not his spirit, but his obsession. He stopped chasing. He began creating not to be seen, but because his art was already alive inside him. He painted from certainty, not from need. And what happened next? The very doors he had been pounding on began to open on their own. His work caught fire, not because he forced it, but because he stopped forcing it. And today his art is celebrated worldwide. Do you see the pattern? The moment he let go, life flowed in. The moment he stopped needing, the world started responding. This is not coincidence. This is law. So I'll ask you again, what are you still chasing that you could choose to stop? What dream, what desire, what obsession is keeping you in chains when freedom is one decision away? Write it down, name it, and then declare it finished. And if you're ready to break those chains, I challenge you, type this right now. Stop. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because the very act of declaring it begins the shift. It tells your mind, the chase ends here. It tells reality, I already have. This is your invitation, but it is also your warning. Keep chasing and you will run forever. Let go, and you will see what has been waiting for you all along. And yet, we both know what happens the moment you try to stop. Doubt creeps in, fear whispers. What if it never comes? What if I was wrong? What if I lose everything? That voice of uncertainty begins to gnaw at you. It makes you question, it pulls you back into the old cycle. So the question is, when doubt rises, when fear tries to drag you back into the chase, how do you hold your ground? How do you stay unshaken in the state of already having? That is exactly what we uncover next. By holding on to faith, even when the darkness is at its thickest, let those words echo inside you. Because doubt will come. It always does. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you dare to stand still, the shadows rush in, the whispers of fear, the gnawing of uncertainty, the voice that says, what if it never comes? What if you're fooling yourself? What if you lose everything? And this is the test. Doubt is not proof you're wrong. Doubt is the doorway, the threshold every dreamer must cross. So what do you do when the voice of fear is louder than the voice of faith? What do you do when everything in front of you screams that it's impossible, while something deep inside begs you to hold on? You hold. You root yourself in the knowing that your desire is already yours. You stand in the storm with the conviction that reality bends to faith, not to fear. Science backs this truth. At Stanford, researchers discovered that those who maintain positive belief recover from setbacks up to 3 times faster than those who surrender to doubt. Think about that. 3 times stronger, 3 times faster. Not because they had more resources, not because they had more support, but because they chose belief over despair. Faith rewires the brain. It ignites resilience. It creates momentum where none existed. It is not blind. It is powerful. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. In New York, a single mother faced the weight of uncertainty. Bills piled up, her children needed her, and she had no job, no income, no safety net. The shadows pressed in from every side, but she chose something different. Every morning, she woke with one simple assumption. The job is already mine, not someday, not I hope, already. She dressed as though she had it. She walked as though she had it. She carried herself with certainty in the face of emptiness. And within 2 weeks, the call came. The position she had believed in became hers. Reality mirrored her conviction. Now imagine this for yourself. Where in your life is doubt trying to strangle your dream? Where are the shadows telling you to give up? Can you see how different your path would be if you stood in that darkness and declared, "It is already mine"? Because here's the truth. Doubt is not the end. It is the threshold. Those who collapse before it remain in the cycle of chasing forever. But those who endure it, those who hold their ground when every sign screams, they are the ones who walk into transformation. So let me ask you directly, are you willing to keep letting doubt decide your fate? Or will you choose belief? Will you choose the state of already having, even when the evidence says otherwise? If your answer is yes, then declare it now. Type it. Write it. Say it with conviction. Comment these words, "I believe." Because the moment you claim it, you anchor yourself in the state that bends reality. This is not just a statement, it's a shift, a rewiring, a declaration that even in the darkest night, the light inside you burns brighter. But here's the next challenge. Faith holds you steady, but then comes the silence, the gap, the waiting, the space between assumption and manifestation. It feels empty, it feels endless, it feels like the universe has gone quiet. So the question becomes this. When you're standing in that silent gap, when the waiting stretches and the evidence is nowhere to be found, is that gap your enemy? Or could it be the most powerful ally you've ever had? That is the mystery we unravel next. The gap is not the enemy. It is the place where the universe is arranging everything. Let that sink in. Because what you call silence, what you call waiting, what you call nothingness, is not a void at all. It is the sacred pause, the hidden stage where your reality is being rewritten behind the curtain. But here's the trap. Most people see the gap as punishment. They think the waiting means they've failed. They think the silence means they've been forgotten. And so they panic, they doubt, they return to chasing, and in doing so, they shatter the very process that was already unfolding for them. But what if you understood this truth? The gap is not delay. The gap is recalibration. It is the time your mind and your reality need to synchronize. It is the space where your new identity is being hardwired. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity. When you assume a new state, your brain literally begins to build new neural networks to sustain it. It takes time. It takes stillness. It takes repetition without panic. And this is why the gap exists. Not to torture you, but to prepare you. Think about it. Would you plant a seed and then dig it up every day to see if it's growing? Of course not. You trust the soil. You water it. You wait. And in the silence beneath the earth, life begins to break open. The seed transforms in darkness long before you ever see the sprout. So let me ask you, what seeds have you been planting and then killing by digging them up too soon? What dreams have you crushed because you couldn't bear the silence? The truth is, the gap is your ally. It is proof that the shift is happening. It is the bridge between the old self and the new. And if you can hold your faith through the gap, reality will meet you on the other side. There was a writer in California. He poured his soul into a manuscript and sent it to publishers. Weeks passed, then months, no reply, silence, a year dragged on. Friends told him to give up, to move on, to face the facts. But he understood the power of the gap. Instead of collapsing into despair, he kept living as the author he already was. He woke every day with the certainty that the book was alive, even if the world hadn't seen it yet. And then, almost a year to the day, the call came. His manuscript was accepted, and that book went on to become a bestseller. Now imagine if he had let the silence convince him it was over. Imagine if he had broken faith in the gap. The story would have ended before it ever began. So let me speak directly to you. What gap are you standing in right now? Maybe it's the space between interviews and the job offer. Maybe it's the silence in a relationship you long to heal. Maybe it's the stretch between planting your dream and watching it bloom. Can you trust the silence? Can you believe that the stillness is not the absence of movement, but the rearranging of reality itself? Because if you can, then you hold the secret most people will never touch. And here is your challenge. If you are ready to embrace the gap as your ally, if you are ready to stop digging up your seeds before they grow, then declare it now. Write it. Claim it. Type these words. Wait. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is. The moment you commit to waiting with faith instead of fear, you step into alignment with the very force arranging your destiny. This is where patience becomes power. This is where silence becomes creation. This is where the unseen becomes the inevitable. So the question that follows is this. If the gap is your ally, if silence is proof that the seed is growing, then what separates true surrender from cold indifference? What makes letting go powerful, while apathy keeps you trapped? That is the mystery we step into next. True letting go comes from the belief I already have, not from pretending to be indifferent. Feel the weight of that truth, because so many people confuse surrender with apathy. They think shutting down their feelings, pretending not to care, acting like it doesn't matter, that this is letting go. But it isn't. It's a lie. It's self-deception. And the universe does not respond to lies. Here's what most people never understand. Indifference still carries the vibration of lack. Because deep down they still want, they still ache, they still hold on in secret. They say, I don't care anymore. But their heart screams, I do. And reality mirrors the truth inside, not the mask outside. So let me ask you directly. Have you been pretending to let go? Have you told yourself you've moved on, but inside you're still checking, still hoping, still waiting? Because the universe doesn't react to your words. It reacts to your state. And neuroscience has proven this. Your brain doesn't respond to fake affirmations that don't touch your emotions. It responds to real felt experience. When you truly believe, your neurons fire differently, your emotions shift, your actions align, and that's when your reality begins to change. Think about that carefully. The key is not to numb yourself. The key is to step into certainty, to to know that it's already done, to release the craving because you no longer need it. You already embody it. Now, let me show you how this plays out in real life. A student in Chicago went through a painful breakup. She told everyone she was fine. She said she had moved on. She acted indifferent, but deep inside, she was still checking his social media, still replaying the memories, still clinging to what if. That wasn't letting go, it was pretending. And life mirrored her pain. She attracted more disappointment, more emptiness, more reminders of what she had lost, until one day, she decided to stop lying to herself. She admitted the truth. I still care, I still hurt, but I choose to step into the version of me who is already whole. She stopped pretending not to feel and instead embraced the power of true release. She stopped asking, stopped looking back, stopped hoping he would return. She began living as though love was already hers, wholeness already hers, joy already hers. And within months, she met someone new, a relationship that reflected her new state, secure, fulfilling, real. This is the difference between false letting go and true surrender. One keeps you trapped, the other sets you free. So let me turn the spotlight on you. Where in your life have you been pretending? Where have you said, I'm fine, but your heart is still begging? Where have you worn the mask of indifference when what you needed was the courage of belief? Now is the moment to decide. Will you keep lying to yourself, or will you step into the certainty of already having? Because when you do, something shifts. Your energy changes, your presence deepens. Opportunities start flowing, not because you forced them, but because you finally aligned with them. And here's your challenge. If you are ready to stop pretending, if you are ready to release from the place of true power, then declare it. Write it. Claim it. Type these words right now. I let go because I already have. Say it and mean it. Because this is the signal reality listens to. This is the vibration that bends the world in your favor. But now comes the question that every seeker faces. If letting go is real, if it's not about apathy but about certainty, does that mean you sit still forever, or is there a place for action? Do you take steps, or do you simply wait? This is the paradox. This is the tension. And this is exactly what we step into next. Yes, but it is action born from fullness, not from lack. Feel that distinction. Because most people don't fail for lack of effort. They fail because every step they take is poisoned by desperation. They act out of fear. They act from emptiness. They act from the gnawing belief that I don't have it yet. But action from lack only multiplies lack. It carries the vibration of chasing, and reality mirrors that back. True action, the kind that transforms everything, doesn't come from fear. It comes from joy, from inspiration, from the energy of already having. So let me ask you, when was the last time you acted simply because you were lit up inside? Not because you were scared of losing, not because you were desperate to prove yourself, but because you were overflowing with a vision so alive that you couldn't not move. Science confirms this. Researchers at Yale discovered that motivation born from inspiration lasts exponentially longer than motivation born from fear. Fear burns fast, then fades. Inspiration sustains. It doesn't just push you, it pulls you. It carries you when the path gets heavy, and it creates momentum that fear can never replicate. This is why so many people get stuck in endless cycles of effort with no reward. They're running on fear. And fear is a fuel that always burns out. But joy is renewable. Inspiration is endless. It flows like a current, guiding you into aligned action. Let me give you a story. In Seattle, there was a painter. For years, he tried to sell his work. He forced himself to paint what he thought would sell. Safe colors, trendy styles, every brushstroke was dripping with the thought, will this be good enough? Will someone buy it? And for years, nothing. Silence, rejection, failure. Until one day, exhausted, he let go. He decided to paint for no one but himself. He stopped chasing approval. He stopped asking what the market wanted. He picked up the brush and painted what brought him joy, bold colors, unfiltered emotion, his truth on canvas, and something extraordinary happened. The very works he painted from joy, the ones he thought no one would buy, were the first to sell. Collectors began to notice. His pieces soared in value, and his career exploded. Why? Because energy is contagious. People don't buy the paint, they buy the vibration. They feel the joy that went into it. They feel the fullness, they feel the inspiration. Now stop and reflect. Where in your life are you acting from fear? Where are you chasing approval, forcing outcomes, trying to prove your worth? And what would change if you acted instead from joy, from wholeness, from the knowing that it's already yours? Because here's the paradox most people never see. The action itself might look the same, but the energy behind it is everything. Fear-driven action closes doors. Inspiration-driven action opens them. So let me challenge you right now. Are you willing to stop chasing from fear? Are you willing to step into inspired action? If the answer is yes, claim it, anchor it. Type this single word in the comments: inspired. Because when you write it, you remind yourself that action must flow from fullness. But now comes the harder question. If inspired action is the key, if joy is the fuel that carries you farther than fear ever could, then why do so many people still fail? Why do some people act from joy, from inspiration, from fullness, and yet still fall short? That is the riddle. That is the hidden layer. And that is exactly what we will unravel next. Because they misunderstood doing nothing as laziness and letting go as indifference. That single misunderstanding has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. Because when people hear stop chasing, they twist it into stop moving. When they hear let go, they translate it into stop caring. And that distortion becomes poison. So let's expose the truth. The majority fail not because they lack talent, not because they lack resources, not even because they lack effort. They fail because they sabotage themselves at the root. They misunderstand the laws of reality, and instead of aligning, they collapse. Self-sabotage is not random, it is systematic. Science proves this. Neuroscientists at Harvard estimate that 95% of our decisions are made by the subconscious mind. That means you can hustle, you can grind, you can take action all day long. But if your subconscious belief screams, "I am not enough," every action bends back into failure. And here's the most chilling part. You may never realize you're doing it. You'll think the world is against you. You'll think luck is never on your side, when in truth, it's your own hidden beliefs pulling the strings. Let me show you how this looks in real life. In Los Angeles, there was a young entrepreneur. He launched a startup with fire in his eyes. The idea was strong. The market was ready. Investors were watching. But inside, buried deep, lived a silent belief: I'm not good enough. And that belief leaked into everything. When pitching, he hesitated. When making decisions, he second-guessed. When setbacks came, he saw them as proof of his inadequacy, and failure followed him like a shadow, not once, not twice, but over and over, until one day in the middle of despair, he faced the root. He stopped blaming the market, he stopped blaming luck, he stopped blaming timing. He asked, what if the only thing in my way is me? And that's when everything shifted. He worked not just on his business, but on his belief. He rewired his subconscious. He replaced "I'm not good enough" with "I am already capable, I am already chosen, I am already enough." And slowly, reality bent to match. The same pitches that once failed now landed. The same decisions that once collapsed now succeeded. His startup flourished, not because the market changed, not because luck appeared, but because his core belief finally aligned. Now pause. What about you? What is the hidden belief guiding 95% of your choices? Is it "I'm not ready"? Is it "I don't deserve it"? Is it "success happens to others, not to me"? Because here's the truth. You cannot outperform your subconscious. You cannot outrun the story you keep telling yourself. If deep down you believe you are not enough, life will keep proving you right. But the moment you shift that root belief, reality has no choice but to follow. So let me ask you directly, do you dare to face the root? Do you dare to uncover the invisible script that has been sabotaging you? Do you dare to rewire it? If your answer is yes, then claim it now. Write it in the comments. Anchor your decision with one word: yes. Because that declaration is not for me. It's for you. It's the moment you stop letting the subconscious sabotage your future. It's the moment you take back the pen and rewrite the story. But the question that lingers is this: if the root belief is the key, if subconscious alignment is what unlocks everything, then how do you apply all of this in the real world? How do you live it, breathe it, embody it every single day? That is where we go next. By following a 3-step process: stop chasing, sustain the state, embrace the gap. It sounds simple, but don't be fooled. This is not just about manifesting one desire. This is training your mind to master life itself. Because most people run in circles, they chase endlessly, they live in lack, They sabotage themselves without ever realizing it. But you, right now, you have the chance to break free. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Step 1, stop chasing. The moment you stop begging reality to deliver, you reclaim your power. Chasing is confession. Every "when will it come" is a declaration of emptiness. But when you stop chasing, you shift into presence. You stop saying, "I need." You start saying, "I am." Step 2, sustain the state. This is where most people fall. They taste the feeling of already having, but they let doubt creep in, and the state collapses. But sustaining means holding the frequency long enough for reality to harden into form. It's not pretending, it's embodying. It's living today as the one who already has. And when you sustain it, day after day, your thoughts align, your emotions align, your actions align, and your results can't help but follow. Step 3, embrace the gap. This is the most misunderstood. The waiting, the silence, the empty space between seed and harvest. Most call it delay, most call it failure, but neuroscience calls it something else, the rewiring phase. When your brain accepts the already done state, it literally begins to build new neural pathways, new circuits of belief, new habits, new outcomes. The gap isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's a line. Let me ground this with a story. In Detroit, there was an engineer. For years, he dreamed of a house, not just any house, his house. But for years, it seemed impossible. His salary was modest, his debts were heavy. Reality said no. But instead of chasing, he stopped. He began to live as though the house was already his. He walked through his apartment imagining the hardwood floors. He cooked dinner, imagining the granite countertops. He fell asleep each night feeling the warmth of his dream home around him. He stopped saying, "One day I'll have it." He began saying, "It's already mine." And something extraordinary happened. Within a year, opportunities appeared. A raise, an unexpected bonus, a perfect listing within reach. And he signed the deed to the very house he had already lived in mentally for months. Coincidence? No, law. Because when the brain accepts a state as real, it directs the body to act differently. Decisions shift, behaviors shift, reality bends. Science proves it. Neuroscience has shown that the brain does not distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and physical ones. Neurons fire, pathways strengthen, and life follows suit. So now the question is not if this works. The question is, will you work it? Will you stop chasing? Will you sustain the state? Will you embrace the gap? Or will you stay where you are, forever running, forever waiting, forever blind to the law shaping your world? The choice is yours, and it begins in this moment, not tomorrow, not later, now. If you are ready to claim it, to anchor it, to declare that today is the day you begin, type this word in the comments now. Write it with certainty, write it as a vow, because the moment you do, you step into alignment, you step into mastery, you step into the truth that was waiting for you all along. But here's the deeper question, the one that will shake you awake. If this process is real, if stopping the chase, sustaining the state, and embracing the gap is what bends reality, then who are you really on this journey? Who do you become when the mask of lack finally falls away? That is what we uncover next. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the creator of reality. Let those words sink in, because this is the truth you've been circling, searching for, perhaps even running from. But now there is nowhere left to run. It is here. It is now. It is you. Everything we've uncovered in this journey points back to one revelation. Consciousness creates, not your circumstances, not your past, not luck, not chance. You. When you stop chasing, when you sustain the state, when you embrace the gap, you reclaim the power you thought life had stolen. You discover that fear was only a shadow, that doubt was only a test, and that within you has always lived the force to shape reality itself. Think back through this journey. You've learned to let go of obsession. You've learned to dissolve doubt. You've learned that waiting is not punishment, but preparation. You've seen that true surrender is not apathy, but certainty. And you've realized that action, when born from inspiration instead of fear, multiplies its impact. That is the architecture of reality creation. That is the blueprint hidden in plain sight. Now listen closely, because I want to share with you something extraordinary. In Washington, D.C., there was a woman drowning in debt, suffocated by fear, lost in a life that felt like quicksand. One night, she stumbled upon a message like this one. And when invited to declare her decision, she didn't scroll past, she didn't wait, she didn't doubt. She typed 2 words, I commit. 6 months later, she was debt-free. 6 months later, she opened the doors to her own business. 6 months later, she looked back and realized that her turning point was not the strategy, not the circumstances, but the moment she declared out loud, I commit. Because words, when backed by belief, bend reality. And now it is your turn. So I ask you, what will you declare? Will you let this be another video you watch, nod, and forget? Or will you anchor your transformation here and now? If you are ready, type these words into the comments. I commit. Write them as a vow. Write them as the seed of your new future. Write them as the line in the sand that declares, I am no longer waiting. I am no longer chasing. I am creating. And once you've written it, take this step further. Hit the like button because that is you saying, yes, this matters. Save this video because that is you saying, yes, I will return and remind myself. Share this message with someone you love because that is you saying, yes, I will not walk this journey alone. And finally, subscribe and turn on notifications, not for me, for you. Because the next video, the next piece will be a fragment of the puzzle you cannot afford to miss. This is a path, and every step matters. But before we end, pause for a moment and feel this truth. Out of millions of videos out there, you found this one. That is not an accident. That is alignment. That is your higher self placing this in your hands right here, right now. So honor it, leave your comment, leave your vow, and know this. The moment you declare it, the universe begins to move. Not tomorrow, not later. Now, I commit. 3 words that can change everything. So thank you. Thank you for choosing to be here. Thank you for giving yourself to this moment, Sai. Thank you for stepping into the truth of who you are. And now I leave you with one last reminder. The life you want is not waiting for permission. It is waiting for your decision. So decide, declare, commit, because you are not a victim. You are the creator.